Sarah, if you'd like to, you're more than welcome.
Now? Okay, it's hard to tell. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. On behalf of the Mohegan Tribe, it's a pleasure to be here. I'd like to introduce my fellow elected official in attendance, Beth Regan. Beth Regan is the Vice Chairwoman of our Council of Elders, and together we would like to welcome Stephanie to the extended Mohegan family. We're thrilled to have you joining our Connecticut Sun. Stephanie's high level of excellence throughout her career, first as a player both in college and in the WNBA, to coach and most recently an analyst on ESPN, make her the perfect fit for our organization. Stephanie exemplifies the core values of our tribe. We at Mohegan are committed to creating an environment of respect that's welcoming to all and being a positive presence in all that we do. We call that tradition the spirit of Aquay. Being part of the Connecticut Sun is more than just basketball. It's about being part of something larger and having a direct connection with and impact on the communities that we're part of. Stephanie gets that, and so does Jen and the incredible team that she's put together. The future's bright for the Connecticut Sun, and we look forward to seeing the greatness they produce not only on the court, but within their own communities. Each of the women on this team is a role model for girls and women across the country, something that we don't take lightly. And we look forward to their continued success and a championship win in the near future. To the team, good luck this coming season, and to Stephanie, welcome aboard. We know you'll make us proud. And speaking of making us proud, it's my honor to introduce a woman who really needs no introduction, especially here in Connecticut, which I'm sure is a blessing and a curse at times. It's my pleasure to introduce Jen Rosati, the president of the Connecticut Sun.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you all for being here. I also would love to recognize Beth Regan, one of my travel buddies in the playoffs. Just really appreciate the support from our Mohegan Sun leadership team, Jeff Hamilton, Kevin Lowry, and I know Dave Martinelli snuck in back there. Big part of the success of our organization, and just the support and the belief that the council and the leadership team here has in me has made this an amazing year and a half. So here I am in my first opportunity to announce a new coach for the Connecticut Sun. I will say it's been a little bit of a whirlwind since the season ended, with a couple of our players having the fortune to compete in the World Cup down in Australia and win a gold medal with Team USA, and the coverage we had there, and then the announcement that we would be looking for a new head coach to lead our organization. I knew right from the beginning that I needed somebody that would be able to come into Connecticut and essentially stand up to the expectations that we have here. And all of you in this room right now know that the expectations are high. The level of sustained success in the WNBA is almost unmatched in terms of playoff success over the last 4 years. We've come up short a few times, and I knew that I needed to find somebody that could come in here and face that challenge head on and not be daunted in the least in understanding what it meant to take over the reins of our organization. Morgan Tuck and I also checked in with our players to get an idea of what they felt like they needed in their leadership. And two things became very evident. One, again, we need somebody who understands our expectations of winning a championship and can help lead us there. And two, they expressed the desire to have a former player. There's lots of reasons for that. And so as I started my journey in searching for a new head coach, there was one name that came up over and over again. Through all the contacts that I have in the world of women's basketball, it was very clear to me that there was utmost respect for Stephanie White and her being an incredible candidate to be the head coach here with the Connecticut Sun. I knew, after talking to Stephanie, I knew that she understood what our players go through. As a former player herself, She would understand the daily toll, both physically, mentally, and emotionally, of being a player in the WNBA. She understands perspective, having been an analyst and a coach for many, many years. She understands the bigger picture of the impact that she has representing people in women's basketball and providing a platform and a voice for the women of the WNBA. And she also understands how hard it is, and not everybody does. She gets that players win championships. As a former champion herself, she knows that it's going to be her job to bring in the right pieces to help us win a championship. It's her job to put our players in a position to be successful, and then at the end of the day, get out of the way and let them win. And I think also equally important, she understands Connecticut. Having coached against this franchise, having players that she coached and played with that played here in Connecticut, she understands and appreciates our fan base. She understands and appreciates our leadership and the support that they have for owning a WNBA basketball team. And she seemed very, very excited about having the opportunity to coach in front of our fans and be a part of the Mohegan Sun family. I know that we sent out a press release, but I thought it was important, as I talk about why I thought Stephanie was a good candidate, to just highlight some of her overall accomplishments. As a player, she was a national champion in 1999 for Purdue, so just a couple years after I won mine in '95, so pretty cool. And then she played for 5 seasons in the WNBA. When she embarked on her coaching career, she started as an assistant coach in the college game. She's racked up 9 years of college basketball coaching as both a head coach and an assistant coach, and 10 years of coaching basketball in the WNBA, which we felt like was really, really important to us. She was part of the Indiana Fever coaching staff when they won the WNBA championship in 2012. And then she was a head coach in 2015 and 16 and was able to lead the Fever to a WNBA finals appearance in 2015. So this is a woman that understands how to win in this league, what it takes to play in this league, and I'm just really, really excited to welcome her and also her family to be a part of our extended family. So if they're watching now or if they're watching later, I also want to welcome her 3 sons, Landon, Avery, and Aiden, and her partner Lisa and her son Sam, as they're hopefully going to see this down in Nashville. So I just want to, when I took this job, I felt really confident in the family atmosphere and the spirit of Aquay that was evident in my interview here, and I wanted to make sure that Stephanie had the same feeling when she left after today's press conference. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce you to our new Connecticut Sun women's basketball head coach, Stephanie White.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for coming. I first want to start off by thanking Jen. I really appreciate particularly our early conversations and her transparent communication, being open and honest, not just about the expectations, which we all know, but just about the atmosphere, about what it would be like to be a part of this family. And that is really important for me. As I transition back into coaching, my family is the #1 priority, and having them be welcome, having them be included. Our 4 boys love to be in the gym. That was really important. I am incredibly honored to be here and to be a part of the Connecticut Sun organization. I want to thank the Mohegan Sun Tribal Council. I want to thank the Council of Elders. Jeff, Kevin, thank you so much. This is an organization that from the moment it was established has been so well respected, has been well run. The thing that I hear the most from former coaches that have been here and former players that have been here is just how well taken care of they are. And it's not like that everywhere in the WNBA. And that's important. And that speaks volumes to every single person who has been a part of this organization from the inaugural season up until now. It is about the people, 100%. And when players are making decisions about where they want to go and where they want to play, who they're going to be surrounded with, that is important. These women travel 12 months out of the year. They are away from their families, and creating a family environment is the most important thing. Within our team, within our extended family, in the organization, and within the extended family in the community. And hearing that time and time again made this decision really easy. Not to mention that I get to work with the best players in the world. I mean, this franchise has competed for championships year after year. And you go back and you look at what Mike Tebow was able to do, what Kurt was able to continue to build, and what we want to do is we want to bring a championship here to Connecticut. We have the pieces to do that. We have the mentality to do that. We're going to put the staff together that puts the best product on the floor and puts our players in position to be successful night in and night out. And we're going to have fun while we do it. Because at the end of the day, this is the game of basketball that we all love. Our fans love to watch it. Our players love to play it. We love to coach it. And we want to have a good time and bring a championship home. So again, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. I'm incredibly excited. Looking forward to getting up here, getting settled, and continuing to meet every single one of you.
We're now going to field some questions from the audience in person first, and then move on to Zoom. Any questions?
Stephanie, good morning. Unkwa Sonia, Channel 3 WFSB. I think my first question is, what excited you most about this roster when you decided to take this job?
The toughness, number one, the grit and toughness that this team plays with. You can't underestimate how far that takes you. The versatility of the roster. I mean, we're talking about some of the best players in the world that night in and night out fight, claw, scrap to be the best that they can be. They can play multiple positions. They can do a lot of different things. Having an opportunity to watch the formation of this roster from the time that they were young, right, and now this core group a little bit older and experienced and ready to get to that next level, seeing the evolution of their game. They're willing to put in the time to work, willing to put in the time to continue to hone their craft. And, competing and being just on the cusp multiple times of a championship, I think it makes them hungrier than ever. And, to me, a change, a fresh face, a fresh system, fresh energy, a new vibe is something that can elevate, that can create some new energy and hopefully give us an opportunity to continue to compete for championships.
Hey, Stephanie, Gabby Lucevero, NBC Connecticut. Welcome.
Thank you.
What has the response been like from the players? Have you had a chance to talk to them much?
Well, I hit up the players last night, once it became official and reached out. I've already gotten responses from a few of them. My goal is to hopefully connect over the phone, FaceTime, WhatsApp, wherever they are in the world, and just have an initial conversation. Building relationships is so important. And one of the things that, I always appreciated as a player was open, honest, transparent, two-way communication. And the players are the ones who are in the mix, on the floor every single day. They're the ones who know what's going on, and they're the ones who have the ability and opportunity to make suggestions, to give feedback. And as a former player myself, knowing how important that is and how much to trust what they're feeling and what they're seeing. So I'm looking forward just to beginning to build relationships with these players, to letting them know just a little bit about myself, who I am, what my style is, and go from there.
Good morning, Coach. Eric Dobratz from WTNH in New Haven. What did you learn while you were away from coaching the last couple of years, and how will that help you in this next job?
Well, first and foremost, I learned how much I missed it. I think once you're a coach, you're always a coach. You have that desire. I commentate games, and there are many nights where you're in a restaurant and you're putting salt shakers in certain places and thinking about what you would do in end-of-game situations. And certainly watching the WNBA playoffs this past season, there were lots of end-of-game situations. And the other thing I learned was just, how precious these moments are. The lifespan of a player is really short in relative terms. In coaching, it's volatile, so you never know when you're going to get another opportunity. And so the biggest thing is to appreciate the moments, appreciate the opportunity that I have right now to work with incredible women in an incredible organization, to compete, to win a championship, and not take it for granted. And ultimately, at the end of the day, when you sit back and you have fresh perspective, again, you go back to this is about players. Players make plays, putting players in positions to be successful, putting the right pieces together for teams to be successful is a challenge that I love. I love competition. I love the high stakes of competition, and I'm certainly looking forward to that.
We're going to now take some questions on Zoom. Howard?
Thanks very much. Is Jen answering the questions right now as well, or is she doing it after?
After.
After, okay. All right. So, Coach, congratulations and obviously welcome back.
Thank you.
To the league. I'm curious, you spoke in the speech with Lila about playing 5 out. And I wonder whether you feel like, just in terms of looking at this roster, whether we should expect it to look similar and capable of playing that way, or do you think there need to be some changes in order to get from where the Sun has been to where you want the Sun to be by the way?
Yeah, I think that the pieces are certainly there. That's why the system works. And certainly there are some adjustments based on who's in the game, when they're in the game. But ultimately, we want to be a fast-paced, up-tempo, free-flowing offensive team. And you have certain structure that can allow players spacing, that can allow them opportunities to be creative. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you want to keep it simple enough that players can just make plays. And the ability to create the space for them to do that, create the actions that put them in the best position to do that, is a great challenge. And I think the pieces that we have here are versatile, they are hungry, they are unselfish, and it fits a system that's free-flowing, whether it becomes a 4-out system, a 5-out system, no matter what actions that you run. I think it fits the personnel.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Jackie, go ahead.
Hi, Steph. Thank you so much for taking the time. So, what I'm really curious about is the situation you were involved in Indiana when you were head coach. Is one, it has a lot of similarities with the one that you're entering in now. But I think what I want to know is what are the differences that you see between the two?
Well, the biggest difference is that I had prior relationships with all of the players in Indiana, being an assistant coach for 4 years before taking over. Some of them were my teammates when I played. Some of them were teammates of mine in college. So having prior relationships, and for me, the number one priority is building relationships with the players that we have right now. And really them getting to know me, what I'm about, me getting to know them. So much of what it's about in this league is communication, and making sure that communication is clear, making sure that it's understood. I think the other difference, having taken over in Indiana, is that we had won a championship, with Lynn Dunn as the head coach in 2012, and really understanding what it takes. But at the same time, it took a long time for us to win a championship. And any coach who's been a part of a championship winning team will tell you there are so many things that have to fall in line, so many things that have to go right. Not just schedule and roster, but staying healthy. What happens when it comes playoff time? Who do you draw? Where are you playing? How are you playing? All of these things. And, our women are playing 12 months out of the year. They're doing their best to take care of their bodies and their minds and position themselves to be fresh when they come into camp and to be fresh when we go to the playoffs. But the other thing in terms of similarities is, in Indiana, we had great players. We had a superstar in Tamika Catchings. We had players who understood their role. But more than anything, we had the grit, the toughness, the competitiveness, and the fire that was led by Tamika Catchings. And we have that same thing here in Alyssa Thomas. The toughness, the grit, the competitive nature. And that permeates the organization. It permeates the team. And the expectation is to compete every day like that. And so that is one of the things that really drew me to this team and to this organization.
And just to follow up, Ken, I know when it comes to the GMing search, this is something that you do in conjunction with Jen. But from your perspective, I'm curious about what the qualities that you really need in a GM. Because this is someone who's going to be working really closely with you.
I think the biggest thing is communication and understanding how we want to play the game. Understanding the pieces that we will need to play the way that we want to play, and how we fit additional pieces into an already great core. Now, we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. right? We need to add a couple of pieces. We need to retool a little bit. We need to prepare, because we know our window's getting shorter and shorter to win a championship, so we need to prepare to be ready for that next wave of player development, who fits the qualities of our organization, who fits the core characteristics of our organization. So open communication in terms of what we're about, where we're going, where we see our team going on the floor, and most importantly, it goes back to that family atmosphere. Who fits the Connecticut Sun? Who wants to be here? Who wants to battle the way that we want to battle? Who wants to be a part of and be engaged in the community? Who wants to continue to use their platform for good in the game?
Tarika?
Hi, Coach White. It's Tarika.
Hi.
Trying to turn my camera off. Sorry. Question for you. The last time that you were in a head coaching position at Vanderbilt, things were just, didn't quite go the way that I'm sure you folks had expected. But obviously, there's a big difference in college coaching and WNBA coaching. I just, I'm curious about if there were anything from that experience that you learned, or things that you know that you would like to do differently now, taking on a head coaching position at this level once again.
Yeah, you're right. It's completely different. At this level, it's mostly about basketball. At the college level, there are so many different dynamics that you're dealing with. In particular, rebuilding a program, high academic standards at Vanderbilt, and then you get into what we were going through in the world, with COVID, with social justice, with all the different dynamics. I think the biggest thing that I learned that I'll carry with me is just that we need to be able to give some grace, right? Like, everybody's going through something. These women are human beings. Our coaching staff are human beings. We need to be able to approach and do the work and compete at an elite level. But we also need to be able to give grace and understand that everybody's living a life and everybody is going through things that we may not know and that they may not share. And that's where I think the communication piece and being a better and more clear communicator, I think it's setting the expectation, but continuing to have an open door and allowing players, staff, people within the organization to have an ear, to have somebody that's there, giving resources that help one another. And on the floor, again, I think the biggest thing for me is that we're able to coach basketball at the pro level. And my strength, I feel like, is being able to put players in positions to be successful on the floor. And I'm going to continue to utilize that at this level.
Erica?
Thank you and congratulations, Coach. Welcome back to the W. Erica L.I.L. here, writing for Forbes and Blackbird Media. I wanted to ask you a little bit about a coaching staff and your philosophy when it comes to bringing on people to help you with the vision that you have in the Connecticut Sun. What will your process be, and what are the resources that you use to find coaches that can fit into this model, and what Connecticut has also said the players want, which is also WNBA players coming back to coach?
Yeah, I think it's important, first and foremost, that we surround ourselves with people who are going to do the work, right? With people who understand the league, with people who are ahead of the curve in terms of their thinking, forward thinking. The WNBA is a fast game. You can't wait till the end of a quarter to make adjustments. You've got to make adjustments before the next time out. And so people who have the basketball IQ, who have the understanding of the game enough to be able to suggest those things. I'm looking for young, hungry, coaches who want to be in the gym with our players, who want to continue to develop them, who want to challenge them, but also who are relationship driven, who can connect with them. For me, it's important to have former players as well. Being able to help mold and empower and prepare that next group of women to coach in our league is important. And I was very fortunate to work for Lynn Dunn, and she challenged me and prepared me every day, so that when I got the opportunity, I was ready. It wasn't when I got the opportunity, oh shoot, what do I have to do? Because I knew that she had put me through the ringer day in and day out and prepared me for this moment. And to have an opportunity to help prepare women who have played in this league, who want to coach at the highest level in this league, and who are willing to do what it takes to do that, is an honor, and it's something that I don't take lightly. And just like Jen had mentioned, not everyone understands how hard it is. Not everyone understands the work that it takes. And as a player, you don't get it. I didn't get it. You go to work and you go home, right? And as a coach, that's just not the way it works. You're always on. You're always on. And there are talented women in our league who have a coach's mind, who have a coach's work ethic, who just need opportunity and just need experience. And we want to provide that for them.
In the interest of time, we are going to go to Rafiq, Alexa, and then have Jen come back up for 2 questions. Rafiq, go ahead.
This is Rafiq from the Sports Connecticut Sun.
Hello. Thank you.
I just wanted to ask you, look at the Connecticut Sun with players led by players like Chapo Jones, Warner Bonner, Jasmine Thomas. What can the coaching experience that you have in the past bring to this type of roster next season coming up?
What was that?
What is your coaching with these players? How can you translate your coaching to these players?
Yeah, I think I can translate, my coaching to these players, number one, because they're already great players who have versatile games, right? I think the biggest thing for me is just how we communicate, how we work together, building our relationships, building trust, and showing them that we'll put them in positions to be successful. Ultimately, I look at this team and I think about how selfless they are. I think about the commitment to the ultimate team success. And that fits with how we want to play. We want to share the basketball, we want to move the basketball, we want to get multiple touches for multiple players on both sides of the floor. We want to play fast and we want it to be fun. And I think every player wants to be able to use their strengths to their advantage. Every player wants to hide their weaknesses but work on their weaknesses. And for me, accentuating those strengths while we develop and work on all of those weaknesses is important. And I'm a player's coach. I've always been a player's coach. I have great relationships with all of my former players, and I'll listen to them and I'll challenge them, and I feel like that's what great players want. And I'm just looking forward to playing around with different offenses and defenses and things that we can do, because there's so many new things that we can do that are outside the scope of what have been done in the Connecticut Sun organization, and I'm looking forward to the challenge. Thank you.
Alexa?
Hey, Stephanie, congratulations, and thanks for taking the time today. I was just curious, Jen had mentioned the importance from the player's perspective of having a new coach that was a former player in the league. In either your experience as a player or as a coach, where does that former experience as a player really help the most, or where do you hope you can have that help the most, even as you take this role?
Yeah, even though I played a long time ago, I've still been in their shoes, right? I understand what they're going through physically, mentally, emotionally, and they're going through it even more so now. It's a higher level. The game is better than it's ever been. The players are better than they've ever been, and so I understand. I also trust them to be honest about how they're feeling. Whether that's in practice, whether that's in game, whether that's in training, off season, whatever it is. These players know their bodies and their minds inside and out, and leaning on them to be transparent in where they are and how they feel helps us prepare. Our goal isn't to be the best team in May. It's not to be the best team in June. It's to be the freshest, best team that we can possibly be when it comes time for the playoffs. And a lot of that is managing in practice. A lot of that is managing in game. And most of that is two-way communication. So I think my advantage in having been a former player is not just having been in their shoes, but that I do trust their viewpoints. I do listen to their viewpoints. Doesn't mean that I'm always going to make the decision that they want, but I'm also a transparent communicator. I always wanted as a player somebody to just be honest and upfront. I didn't want to guess what was going on, and that's who I am, and that's what I'm about. I would imagine that most players want that. And as an assistant coach, in Indiana, I certainly learned how to communicate to players what the head coach's perspective is, right? And then how to communicate to the head coach what the player's perspective is. And it's important for me to have people on my staff that can be that buffer, that can give me the perspective of the players, because I am a little bit further removed, and can give them my perspective as a head coach or our perspective as a coaching staff, because oftentimes it is different. Oftentimes it is different. I saw things completely differently as a player than I do as a coach. And it's natural, it's the way that it is, but I think having all of those experiences at this level just helps me understand what they're going through, helps me understand their mindset, and hopefully helps me be a better communicator.
We're now going to field questions from Jen. Thank you, Stephanie. We're going to go Howard and then Jackie and then conclude. Howard, go ahead.
Hey, Jen, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Oh, you changed your position there. What happened to the sun streaking into the side of the room there?
I tried to avoid my two for you, if I could. The first one, just if you can lay out, I know the contract searches, the GM search continues, kind of where are you on that, and what is that looking like for you at this point? And step one on the career.
Yeah, well, I will say that when I started the process, I knew immediately when Kurt left that I wanted to separate the GM and the head coach spot, and I kind of went about it simultaneously. And people continued to ask, well, what are you going to hire first? And so I think it boiled down to, knowing that I needed to get a great head coach in place, and then support that head coach with somebody who would help not just make immediate moves in this offseason to bolster our roster or fine-tune our roster, but also help us set the vision for the future. I think that people don't understand how difficult it has become to navigate through the salary cap and the collective bargaining agreement components. And so teams around the league are finding that they need somebody full-time that are living and breathing free agency and college scouting and potential moves within the league. And so once I was able to secure Stephanie as our head coach, I decided that I could then focus solely on finding a person who I thought could help us do that. And so we're working through that now. I think it'll be pretty quick that we can start making some decisions. I'd love to be able to help Stephanie get a staff in place over the next couple weeks. Free agency is right around the corner, so we need to have our vision set and a plan in place for what that looks like, and be prepared to kind of hit the ground running.
Appreciate it. And then just on that vision specifically, I'm just curious, in your conversations with Stephanie and just in the way in which you kind of conceive of this team going forward, let's talk a little bit about 5 out. You obviously have John Jones, somebody under contract who embodies that in a lot of ways. How much did what John is as a player and what he wanted to be as a player factor into your thinking and Stephanie's thinking as you guys came to this decision?
I think, again, I think Stephanie's a long way from deciding exactly what she's going to run next year. But I think when you look at the last 2 WNBA champions, you see a style that really fits where the game has evolved to, both in the NBA and the WNBA. And so it doesn't mean it's a style where you never have anybody with their back to the basket, because obviously we've been able to dominate in the paint with Jonquel, with Brianna Jones, and with Alyssa Thomas. But it's about how you get them there. And it's going to be Stephanie's job to figure out the actions that put our players in the best positions to be successful. But I think when you look at what style is working in the W right now, it's having guards that can create shots for themselves and for their teammates, and play off of ball screen and handoff actions. It's being able to spread the floor with three-point shooting, which hasn't particularly been a strength of ours. But we've been really good because we've been dominant rebounding, we've been dominant defensively, and we've been dominant in the post. So, as Stephanie said, we're not going to reinvent the wheel, but I think every team is going to have some free agency moves and some changes to their roster. We're anticipating the same, and so we've got to figure out what that looks like for us. Stephanie will have to figure out with her staff the pieces that she thinks are most important to surround our core players with, and then we'll be ready to put that system in place when training camp rolls around.
Thank you both.
Thanks. You too.
And we'll conclude with Jackie.
Hi, Jen.
Hi.
Thank you so much for taking the time. So I've got two questions for you as well, and both of them build off of Howard's. So I remember reading an interview you did with Christine Butterfield, and you talked about how you wanted to emulate what the Aces were able to do from 2021 to 2022. How it's sort of like they're almost there, and then they were able to make it happen the next year. And so I'm curious what you think differs between the Sun situation and sort of what the Aces did in the past 2 years, and what you think this group needs to do to respond in that similar way, so that between 1 year and the next, we can go from almost getting there
Yeah.
to the championship.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's I wish I could say there was a formula that we could follow that would guarantee us a championship, right? You look at Chicago, and they added a big piece in Candace Parker in order to win their first championship. And then you look at Vegas, and they subtracted a big piece when they traded Liz Cambage to create more open flow in their offense. So there's different ways of accomplishing your goal. So I don't think that we're married to one thing or another. You know, obviously conversations will happen over the next few months. Negotiations have to be made in terms of some of our free agents. But I do think that the thought of there being a championship contender in place with a new energy and a fresh voice could be one of the small adjustments that are made to help us get over the edge. And I think that's similar to what happened with Vegas. And that's where I made the comparison. It wasn't necessarily that we're going to emulate the way that they play, but it was that they tinkered with their roster. They brought in a new voice after a very, very successful run with Bill Lambier, and they were able to get over the hump. And so, yeah, do I have a high expectation that Stephanie can do the same thing here? Of course, but she knew that when she accepted this challenge. And again, as I said, and what she has said, is a lot has to go your way for that to happen. You know, people don't realize that it's not just about the moves that you make, it's about the moves that other teams are making as well. It's about players staying healthy. We've had 2 significant injuries over the last 2 seasons in years where we finished first in the regular season in 2021 and then went to the WNBA finals in 2022 without a starter in the mix. So a lot has to go our way. We're going to control what we can control. I will promise you that. We will continue to make sure we, attract and encourage players to come here that have the grit and the toughness that Stephanie referred to earlier. And we will continue to be a place and a destination where free agents know that they have an opportunity to play in front of a great crowd. They have an opportunity to play for an ownership group that supports them and the WNBA and what we stand for. And they're going to play for, a great coach, a great team that has the ability to win a championship year in and year out. So I'm not so sure that there's really anywhere else that you should want to go than the Connecticut Sun. So thank you guys for your time. Thank you everybody for being here, and looking forward to start the next step of and starting this new journey.
I appreciate that. I just have one more.
Oh, that was like my closer there, Jackie. Now I got to start all over again. No, you did say you had 2 questions, so that's my bad. I jumped the gun.
It's okay. I appreciate it. And just to build off of Howard's other one, what I'm curious about when it comes to your GM search is I'm curious about the qualities that you think you really need, and also I want to know what do you make of the fact that there is this young group of executives evolving in the league. I mean, in DC, Maria was elevated, and the Lynx is someone like Claire. So how have you been able to learn sort of about this new group that's rising up?
Yeah, well, I think it's exciting. Like I said, it's nearly impossible to have a dual role anymore in this league. You have to have talented people around you. And I think the qualities that are important probably vary in each city based on the head coach experience of whether or not they've been a GM before or how long they've been in the league. But Stephanie and I talked a lot about, again, needing somebody that was organized, someone with some experience, that understood the league, that was relationship driven. A GM has to have lots of conversations with other GMs, with other owners, presidents, with other coaches, with coaches in college, with the players. So that has to be a relationship-driven person. But also, again, somebody that's thinking about the bigger picture. The WNBA is ever changing, and it's only going to continue to get harder. You know, we're talking about a league where the players continue to get better. We've got players coming out of college that have no room on rosters to make the league. So there's multiple players out there looking for an opportunity to be a part of this league. And so there's diamonds in the rough. And then we're talking about expanding the league. So in a few years, we're going to have to be worried about losing pieces of our roster and having, you know, maybe one or two additional teams in the league. So I think it's important that as much as we focus on what are the moves we need to make in the short term, that we always have somebody thinking about what are the moves that we need to make to keep us a championship contender in the long term. And as a coach, it's hard to do that. It's hard to have that focus when you're really just worried about what comes next. And what comes next for Stephanie after free agency is training camp. And so I need to make sure that there's people around her in our next GM, but also in Morgan Tuck, who we moved to an assistant GM role. So now we've got 3 former players on this staff that can think the game the way it needs to be thought about, but also having somebody who can kind of tie all that together. I talked to Stephanie about how we're probably more on like coaches that are on the like high energy emotional side in terms of how we operate and how we think and how competitive we are. So it'll be good to have somebody that can balance our, you know, emotions, balance like our, you know, energy, and then just keep us level-headed about thinking step by step of what we need long-term, short-term, and every day. I think it's also important to mention that we are really, really invested in our players outside of basketball. So whether it's taking care of them emotionally, physically, mentally, making sure that they're a part of giving back to the community, but also preparing them for life after basketball. This is really, really important to us as an organization. And so I think the GM also will have to have a role in making sure that our off-the-court opportunities and programming also match the values of our organization. And as Stephanie said, there's a lot of talented women in this league that have a future in this league, and whether it's in coaching, where it's in the front office, it's as a GM, it's as an official, or it's at the league office, we want to make sure we keep the very best of our players in our league. And so we're gonna do right by them and hire people around them that are preparing for them for that step.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Good?
Yep.
All right,
Thank
thanks
you.
everybody, appreciate it. Can we do, Alex, we're gonna do a quick photo opportunity here. Can we do that before we do questions? Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So where do you want us, Jeremy?
Doesn't matter.
In front of this? Okay.